Of you. And now, Kerby Anderson. Thank you for joining me. It is our Millennial Roundtable, and we certainly do have our resident millennial, Nick Pitts, Dr. Nick Pitts, who is vice president at Dallas Baptist University. Just great to always have you in studio with us.
It is so good to be here, especially since I wasn't here last week. I've got much to say, so I'm so excited for today.
I've had to cover without you here, and even today I'm going to sit in the chair because I have coordinate a whole lot of different things. But nevertheless, this is part of our Truth Team Week. And, of course, as always, we have with us Brad Fisk. Brad, it's good to have you here as well.
It's wonderful to be here. What a great week we're having so far.
We are having a good week. And, okay, there are all sorts of things we could talk about, but I got a feeling the decision today by the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, to step down was maybe not totally unexpected, but certainly something everybody's talking about these days.
Yeah, so just to catch you all up, earlier today, I mean, we had quite a bit of news this morning, starting in around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern time this morning. We had President Trump that openly decided that he was going to threaten Russia relative to kind of a response because of what's happening.
We'll send those missiles over there.
Yeah, so, good morning, everyone. And then shortly later on, we had a pretty big announcement, but it was almost foreseen. You had Speaker Ryan that decides that he is going to step down, and so some are indicating that it's largely because he came to Washington to be able to do tax reform, and that's what they did earlier in the year. Others are saying that he really just wanted to spend more time with his family just because he's a fundraising machine that's on the road all the time. And then others would say that he's just a little frustrated with working with the president. And so there's multiple hypotheses out there as to why he might leave. But what we do know to be true is that he is going to be stepping down, and there will be the speculation as to his not seeking re-election, but how many actual Republicans will get re-elected in 2018.
And that was one of the questions that was asked at the press conference, by you stepping down, will that affect it? And I think his answer was, no, I don't think people vote for or against a particular candidate based upon whether or not you have the Speaker of the House. But, it is possible that some of those overlap. In other words, he has said, if I don't step down now, I've been here 20 years just about, my kids will never have known a father who wasn't a weekend dad. So that, as a father, I can appreciate that. He just had to bite the bullet and actually pass a $1.3 trillion spending bill, an omnibus bill, which just goes against everything he's ever believed in. So on the one hand, the success with tax reform, on the other hand, having to put up with that probably wasn't something that was real positive. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Paul Ryan and his stepping down will affect this. If nothing else, he may just be more sympathetic to the president because, after all, he's now all of a sudden a lame duck right off the bat.
Yeah, so we have right now there are 52 representatives that has decided that they are not going to seek re-election.
Yes.
And then today what we found out is Paul Ryan, as well as another representative out of Florida, have decided that they're not going to seek re-election, bringing it up to 54, which is, again, just a very significant number as you continue to look on the horizon. And many are anticipating as well as speculating that there could be a blue wave that sweeps into Washington in 2018 for the 116th Congress.
Brad, these midterm elections, it's going to turn into a mess, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I have a question for you guys. Will Paul Ryan have an effect on who replaces him? Does he have some influence there on who steps in behind him?
Yeah, there's two working theories right now. You've got two individuals that are in leadership right now, Steve Scalise out of Louisiana, as well as Kevin McCarthy out of California. Kevin McCarthy is very much a President Trump favorite, I guess you would say, but Steve Scalise is very much a favorite and a darling of the conservatives.
Yeah. This will be an interesting one because sometimes it was sort of a foregone conclusion with John Boehner. What's he doing these days?
Yeah, so current speaker stepping down and former speaker selling pot now. So what a time to be alive.
I just had to bring that one up. Let's see if we can for just a minute educate our listeners, because many people have been listening to this program for a few months when we've been on AM 1160. Of course, we have some listening online, and you can leave your comments, as you always do, on Facebook Live. But I think a lot of our listeners are saying, okay, I've heard you talk about Truth Team. What is that exactly?
Well, the Truth Team is an opportunity for a couple times a year we come to you and ask you to join us financially. You're already part of the listening family. We're asking you to take that step forward and become part of the giving family, the support family, because we are listener supported. Let me say that again.
Yes.
We are listener supported. I'll break it down for you. Listener, that's you. supported.
Hold on, I wasn't listening.
Okay, yes. You're supporting us, and then we are listener supported. And by support, here's the number you need to understand to become a part of the team. 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Oh, I thank God for what you're doing on Point of View. You guys have more influence across this country than I believe any of them in terms of tackling the issues and getting the truth out to Americans. It's getting to the point where truth just is bottled up on every hand. Every time you turn around, there's another big bottleneck against truth. I hope your listeners realize what Point of View is doing and supports Point of View in every possible way you can.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
I always wanted to give because I thought that Point of View really brings a lot of things in out here in the open that you don't hear anywhere else. And I knew when I was hearing on there, well, I could count on it being something that you could check into it and the proof would be there. You know, I didn't have to wonder, well, where did they make that stuff up from? I just know that it's going to be facts. That's what I call true journalism and putting the stuff out. I really think that's great.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Maybe you can see why we call it the Truth Team and Truth Team Week, because I heard a couple of our callers there, Brad, talking about how they come to us because they want truth. And at the same time, they also say, if I'm not sure where that came from, I can go to the website and see where that fact actually was generated.
We deal with facts, and also we hear all the time, I don't hear this kind of stuff anywhere else. It just isn't, we're not giving voice to the whole conservative biblical worldview, not near as we should be. And so we have people who are supporting us right now. That's the reason they joined us. So that might be you, and you who haven't joined us financially yet that want to do that. You can give online at pointofview.net. And you can also give us a call at 1-800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Love to hear from three of you in the next 5 minutes. Give us a call, would you?
I noticed, too, as you go to the website, there's a little banner over there. It says Matching Fund.
Yes.
You know, it seems to me that we can even tell our listeners, if they join with us right now, that we will match them dollar for dollar.
We had so much fun with this yesterday, and it was a very exciting day. And so some friends of the ministry said, hey, let's do it again on Wednesday. Let's go ahead and put $12,000 on the table. Can you believe that? That means every dollar, Nick, that you give is going to be doubled up to $12,000.
You know, I'm no math major, but I think that sounds like a pretty good formula.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, again, we've been talking about truth, and when we come back from the break, Nick, I want to talk about that for a minute, because we talk about this idea of post-truth. You know, wasn't that a word that was used in the dictionary, something like that?
Oh, yeah, it was the word of the year a couple of years back. So, yeah, what does it look like to tell the truth, or more specifically, what does it look like to talk about truth in a post-truth era? And then for Christians, what does it look like to share the good news in a fake news world?
We need to have three of you call right now, and that number is 1-800-347-5151. Of course, you can also go to the website, pointofview.net. 1-800-347-5151.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
Former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens stirred up a discussion about the Second Amendment when he published an op-ed in the New York Times that called for the repeal of the Second Amendment. Now, most of the reaction centered on the fact that it would be nearly impossible. The amendment process set forth in the Constitution requires a two-thirds vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then it must be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures. That's not going to happen. What was missing from much of the reaction was a critique of the former justice's legal and historical analysis. Amy Swearer provides a needed response. For example, the former justice argued that the Second Amendment was written solely because the framers feared a standing army. According to him, the amendment was about the militia and did not protect an individual right. Samuel Adams declared the Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. The former justice also argued that the idea of an individual right is a new idea, essentially invented by the NRA. That would be news to the Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story, who wrote in 1833 that the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has been justly considered as a palladium of the liberties of the Republic. John Paul Stevens also wrote that the Second Amendment did not put limits on government to enact gun control legislation. However, William Rawle, writing in The View of the Constitution of the United States, said that no clause in the Constitution could by any rule of construction be conceived to give Congress a power to disarm the people. If we're going to have a debate about the Second Amendment, it is critical that we get the legal history correct. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hello, this is Pastor Jack Graham commending the ministry of Kerby Anderson and Point of View. Kerby is one of my favorite people personally, and I'm so respectful of his ability to take the issues, speak to them biblically, and communicate in a way that we can all understand. His program, his show, the ministry is vital in our culture in order that we may proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ and teach people God's way of living. I want to encourage you as a listener to support this program financially and prayerfully. And I know Point of View and Kerby Anderson personally would be greatly appreciative. I'm Kerby's pastor, and it is a privilege to know him and to be a part of this life and ministry. We support this ministry wholeheartedly.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Very nice comments from my pastor, and whenever your pastor says that about you, you got to say that was
pretty
good.
Cool.
Nah, might as well stop right now. But anyway, we before we went to the break here, we have Nick Pitts with us, and also, of course, Brad with us. But Nick, for just a minute, talk about this idea of truth and post-truth. We are trying to communicate truth in a culture that says, well, truth is personal. It's reflective, but it's not absolute. And that's one of the real challenges here on Point of View, don't you think?
Yeah, one of the interesting things that we're increasingly becoming aware of is the fact that we no longer have shared facts.
Yes.
And so that's a fact that we no longer have shared facts, which is also called a paradox. But nevertheless, what does it look like for us not just to simply say some of these jokes about how it seems like we're so illogical, but how do we respond and move from that in a way that's advantageous for the conversation, but also is glorifying to our God? And I think one of the beautiful things that we continue to see is that even though there's a rejection of logic in our culture today, that we have the opportunity then where logic fails, actions are received. And so it moves from us not necessarily throwing away logic, but starting to figure out what are the action steps that we can take in order that we might be able to not only live lives that glorify God, but also to be able to live and move in a world that might be able to be reflective of his glory and his grace.
You know, I'm just thinking we have two weapons. One is the weapon of truth. The other is the weapon of love. Mm-hmm. And on Monday, we talked about civility, because you read my commentary about some who claim that we should have civility and then don't. And then we also had Foster Friesen here, of course, who's really been promoting this idea of civility. And so it seems to me that, if anything, we should be gracious. And I've had a number of people, even this week, saying, I appreciate your program, because even when people are hostile to you on the air, you're very gracious to them in terms of how you respond to them. And that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we don't necessarily, we think as though we're trying to win victory. But if we read the end of the book, we recognize that we've already got victory. We're just kind of living in the meantime, right? The now and the not yet. And so understanding that we have victory, it kind of allows us, or it should do something inside of us to create humility, as well as just an eagerness to help others join the winning side. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that not only Point of View does, but also just the Christian worldview helps individuals to think. They're not necessarily victims because they're already victors in Christ. And when you're victors, knowing how this story ends, it really does create an eagerness inside of you, not necessarily to win because you already recognize that, but to get others on the side with you so that you can have a bigger winning party at the end of the day.
Very good. Brad Fisk in studio with us. And Brad, for just a few minutes, let's talk about as people donate to this ministry, as they, and again, this is a pledge because you don't have to have all the money
That's right.
now.
No, you don't.
And a gift of any size is appreciated. No gift is too small. No gift is too large. But we have thank you gifts. And let's, if we can, talk about some of those resources that are available to those individuals who call that number, 800-347-5151.
Well, perhaps the most popular level is that Truth Team 360, and that name is on purpose. You're joining the Truth Team. You're helping us put out truth with a capital T, as you guys were just talking about a moment ago. And 360 is we watch you back, where we've got you from all directions, and we have a special thank you, a welcome gift. It's called the Bible Stick from Faith Comes by Hearing, which is the world's largest producer of audio Bibles. Don't know if you knew that or not. They are the biggest of any other organization producing audio Bibles. And this is a Bible stick that's preloaded with sound effects, music. We're going to play a sample in just a moment so you can hear actually what that sounds like. But for your gift of $1 a day for the year, you will receive this as a welcome gift. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's actually an MP3 player. So it's not something you plug into a computer or plug in somewhere else to listen to. It's self-contained. It has the headphones, it has everything you need, and it's about the size of a pack of gum, so it fits in the palm of your hand. But let's listen to what it sounds like.
Now who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous.
And again, that's a part of 1 Peter 3:15. Yep. Let me just hold this up. Here is the Bible stick itself for those of you watching here, and so you can kind of get a sense of what it looks like as well. And so that's just one of those ways in which we can say thank you. A little bit later, we'll play some others because you have 40 different voices, all sorts of music and sound effects, and just theater of the mind.
And it's the ESV version. People like to know that. And it's word for word, you guys. Just because we're dramatizing it, it is word for word. So what an incredible, maybe not for you, maybe a gift for your college student or your high school student. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like my quiet time, right? I just hear the angels in the background. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but it's cool. It could be. It could be.
It could be.
And then now you can also, at higher levels, we also have some welcome gifts to joining the club as well.
We certainly do. We have what's called the Anniversary Club, and that is $45 a month. Why 45? Well, back in 1972, Marlon Maddox started this program, so it's been 45 years. We're coming up to 46 years in the fall. And one of the benefits you get in addition to the Bible stick are these little booklets and things like Sharia law, politicized culture. That was where we get into this issue of civility, making your voice count, your vote count, homosexual theology, privacy and surveillance, Second Amendment, capitalism, socialism, all sorts of issues that we're writing about. So again, you get the Bible stick and you get these booklets, which are sent out monthly. Of course, everybody gets the Outlook magazine. And then one more, just before we go to some other topics, $100 a month, you get all of these, plus the Amazon Echo Dot. And the reason we do that is, number one, you can just say, Alexa, listen to Point of View, turn on Point of View, and it will play Point of View for you, and you can get the stream. Or, of course, it also is a way you can ask all sorts of questions. And we're also developing a way in which we can begin to add Christian content to your Amazon Echo Dot. So at whatever level, no gift is too small, but also I want to say no gift is too large. When we have a $12,000 matching fund, as we had someone last night call in and say, I could write you a check for $1,000. And I think there's somebody else that's going to write one for $10,000. Right. And so some people have that means. Some people say, look, I just got a note the other day say, I can give you $3. That's all I can give. And that's great. And so we just want 100% participation.
The amounts between you and the Lord, we who have nothing to do with that. We're just simply saying there's a need. And if you can meet, by the way, you can go to pointofview.net and see all these gifts.
Yes.
So that's a good idea if you want to just check that out, pointofview.net. You can give there. You can look and see what we're talking about. But you know what? Why don't you pray? Pray and obey. See what God would have you do and just follow him in obedience. 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. 51.
I thought after the break we would talk about Facebook because Jim Dennison was on the air yesterday, and here his is on Zuckerberg testifies before Congress. And, of course, we have Nick Pitts today, and he has Zuckerberg apologizes. And it seemed to me that Ted Cruz had a few questions for Mark Zuckerberg. Didn't you notice some of those questions?
Yeah.
And a few others, Dick Durbin and some others. So we'll read some of the back and forth and just talk about this whole issue of Facebook, because that's another issue I was just thinking, Brad. Some people are saying, where do I go where I can actually have a forum to communicate my viewpoint?
That's
because
right.
sometimes I'm wondering whether or not my viewpoint can be expressed anymore on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or some of those. Well, one of those forums is a place called Point of View.
That's right. And maybe they're going to try to shut down what we want to say as Christians. It could go the other way, too. So I'd be very interested in the discussion. Stick around, you guys, because it's going to be good.
Let's, if we can, encourage you right now as we're going to the break to actually give us a call, because when we come back, we're going to hear from Dr. Nick Pitts about this whole discussion that was actually begun in front of the members of Congress. And there were some really good questions.
Man, I think one of the most pointed questions that I heard was from Senator Ben Sass out of Nebraska.
I was just going to say, there you go.
What is hate speech?
Yes.
And so if you can't define what hate speech is, but yet you claim to censor hate speech or violent speech, well, then what does that look like? It's very arbitrary. And then especially if you have a viewpoint that might be counteractive or might be something that's...
And what about privacy?
Yeah,
That whole issue there.
Yeah.
Again, we need to take a break, though. We need to hear from you. 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. Need to get 3 calls right now.
For years, we've been working for change in the future, voting for candidates who will appoint good justices, fighting to end abortion and protect religious liberty. The opportunity to finally achieve the change we've been working for is now. We've got an apparently solid justice for the Supreme Court, and strong rumors another opening may be imminent, a chance to shift the court from illegitimate judicial activist lawmaking to constitutional faithfulness for decades to come. There is renewed support for freedom of conscience and religion, an administration committed to upholding the law. No, not perfect, sometimes maddening, but arguably better than we've seen in any of our lifetimes. And the future is now. It's time for informed citizens, informed Christian disciples to keep the pressure on, to be faithful members of the Point of View Truth Team. Seize this moment. Make an important move. Call 800-347-5151 or visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team.
Point of View will continue after this. You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
It is Truth Team Week, and we certainly need to hear from you. 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. We have a $12,000 match on the table, and we need to take care of that.
A dollar for dollar match. Every dollar you give up to $12,000, monthly or single, is doubled. And you know what? Just hitting me, just sensing this, that there's somebody out there who could do $1,000 a month.
I'm sure.
Right now, I believe of all the people we're talking to, you actually could do that. Could you just step forward and just let us know that and say, you know what, I'm going to stand with you at $1,000. Okay, so give $100 a month, any way you want to do it. 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
I just want to commend you guys on your program. I love listening to you.
I want to say, first of all, that I really enjoyed the Millennial Roundtable, and I love the program altogether. I think Kerby is great, and I really appreciate all of y'all, all that y'all do, and the truth that y'all put out.
I think you guys and gals are more right on about the assessment of this country right now than anything I've heard. You know, I go home and I tell my wife, you've got to hear what they're talking about on the show.
Point of View is actually a lifeline for me, and I'm actually a third-generation Point of View listener. I homeschool my girls, and I don't think I could do what I do without Point of View on a daily basis. Without ministries like Point of View, we really don't have much hope for the future of our children, our grandchildren. They just really help on a daily basis protect the freedoms that we enjoy today. I can't see a better way to invest in our future than to support Point of View.
Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it. Not only that, I want to encourage everybody listening to donate, because without our donations, I know that y'all won't be able to stay on the air, and it's just, I don't know where we get this kind of information if it wasn't from y'all.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
It is our Millennial Roundtable, and we were talking with individuals that are millennials, listen to the program and appreciate that. Nick Pitts, of course, is a millennial. We're going to be talking with Lauren McAfee a little bit later, who actually is the corporate ambassador for Hobby Lobby, and also one of the, as a matter of fact, she was the first employee for the Museum of the Bible. Of course, part of the Green family, but I also heard multi-generational, didn't you?
Third generational. Think about that. 3 generations. This is the oldest radio broadcast in all of Christian broadcasting. Nobody's older than Point of View. We're the leaders. We're out there in front. And something else I heard was a homeschooler. We have an incredible relationship with homeschoolers as they listen to us and support us, and as we support them, and the freedom to exercise in the area of educating your children. I don't think that's the state's job. I don't think it's a village or whatever you want to do. I think it's up to the individual family to make that decision before the Lord.
Good. 1-800-347-5151. And as we always do during the program, especially on a Millennial Roundtable, but almost every day now, we encourage you to leave some notes on our Facebook Live. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about this whole idea of Facebook. I want you to use Facebook to talk about Facebook for just a minute. And Nick Pitts, yesterday, of course, we had the CEO and actually the creator of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, in front of Congress. And I think they were, first of all, focusing on the issue of privacy. Dick Durbin said, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night? Kind of long pause. Zuckerberg said, no. Then Durbin said, if you messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you messaged? And Mark Zuckerberg again paused and said, well, I'd probably not choose to do that publicly. And, of course, that was the point, because if you wouldn't actually put this out publicly, any individual that could hack into Facebook or has access to that data, They know that kind of information,
Yeah,
don't
I think
they?
it illuminated a bigger point, too, that we're more than willing to say certain things over on our computers than we are face-to-face with individuals. Like you look at some of the comments that are said on newspaper or columnists or any other on some websites, and you'll see what's known as the trolls, as the nasty effect. Individuals just have a certain propensity and freedom to say things over the comforts of their computer where anonymity lives that they wouldn't be able to say if you were looking straight at a person. So Zuckerberg illuminated another principle of this online epidemic, just phenomenon, I'll say, in that individuals can just really do whatever they want and are very prone, or not as prone, to share whatever they want face to face. But I think, again, what we're continuing to see is Facebook has yet to answer the question, are they going to be a media company or are they going to be a technology company? Are they going to be an open platform where they allow the freedom of ideas to be able to move forward? Or are they going to be a media company that curates particular content, which is especially relevant to our conversation and point of view?
Okay, Ted Cruz asked that question. He asked it once, didn't get an answer. He said, well, let me ask the question again. Does Facebook consider itself to be a neutral public forum? And representatives of your company have given conflicting answers to this. Are you a First Amendment speaker expressing your views, or are you a neutral public forum allowing everyone to speak? And I guess, Nick, that's something else we've talked about, and that is Facebook and the big tech four. So I'm also talking about Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and some of the others, are all pretty much saying, well, we're just a platform. And so that's their way of saying, well, we're not really going to get involved in any kind of political issues. We're not going to really try to censor anything. But they do it all the time. And so either you're like NBC, CBS, Fox News, CNN, or you're like just a bulletin board, but you can't keep jumping back and forth whenever it's convenient for you,
If
right?
they're a platform, they've got some foundational issues because something's slanted a little bit.
Just a little, you think?
I guess you could say. And so, I think the reason why, just for our listeners, that they're less inclined to want to be a media company is there's a significant amount of regulation that comes with being a media company. There's expectations and responsibilities that they have that they don't necessarily have as they continue to identify as a technological company. But one of the things that has to be said is that if Facebook is going to continue to operate the way that it does, then there needs to be some accountability, one, which it seems as though, based on some initial hints, that Facebook's going to do in the future. And then two, there needs to be this protection of some of the of living up to their user agreement that they're putting out with us. But if we don't just make Facebook, because I would submit that it's almost a bigger issue, because there are a number of us that are putting stuff out there and putting stuff into Facebook rather, that we would prefer not to be known. Well, we're going to have to self-regulate ourselves, one. And so liberty, yes, but also responsibility, too. Not only for Facebook, but for ourselves.
Yeah, it's one of the things in our little booklet here that we made available to anybody that gives at $45 a month.
Right.
Or you could get extra copy if you say, I want this one on privacy and surveillance. That's certainly one. But also, let me, if I can, promote Nick Pitts for just a minute. Here's his daily briefing. That's the first article today on our Wednesday one. And one of the things you do, Nick, is that you actually give us a summary of Zuckerberg, including some links. And one of those is you had like a 3-minute highlight reel with 5 awkward moments during the hearings. This is one of the smarter people in the world, right? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is, scary smart. And he probably had a pretty good idea of some of the questions that were going to be asked. But we've already talked about what Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat, had to say. We also talked a little bit about what Ted Cruz, a Republican, had to say. Let's look at one more. Senator Ben Sasse from Nebraska, a Republican. He asked some questions, as you mentioned just a minute ago, about how you define hate. And these are not difficult questions, but they certainly were for the CEO of Facebook, weren't they?
I think that was one of the more interesting interactions that happened yesterday. And so you had Senator Ben Sasse that just asked a very pointed question as to how do you define hate speech. And it was very obvious that I don't know if he wasn't expecting it or if Mark Zuckerberg just didn't anticipate or have a good definition of it. Because if they're trying to squelch out violence and hate and terrorism, well, it's important to be able to identify what that is. And it was very clear that he lacked an ability to be able to identify and define what hate speech is. And so for a Christian perspective, you know that your speech to a certain degree is going to be offensive and is going to be considered hateful by some. And so what does it look like then to have this entity known as Facebook openly regulating and openly silencing some of the comments that you're making? It's just a question that begs to be asked.
Brad, this, if nothing else, makes the case for a
Oh,
point
man.
of view.
Absolutely,
I mean, if you
it
really
does.
want to have free flow of information, especially some of which will not make its way into YouTube videos or Twitter posts or Facebook posts, that's where you come. Point of view, right?
That's right. That's right. And someday, who knows what the future holds for our kids and our grandkids? Because there may be, a massive shutdown of information of allowing Christian thoughts and biblical ideas flow. And I could see them just shutting it off someday and saying, nope, no more. But that's why we have Point of View, and that's why we're asking you to support us at 1-800-347-5151. That's toll-free 800-347-5151. And we have a match on the table.
We do, a $12,000 match fund, which was put forward by a very generous donor to help us out. And so, again, we need to hear from you. 1-800-347-5151. You can also go to the website, pointofview.net. You won't miss any content. You'll also get a chance to see those thank you gifts. So go to pointofview.net or give us a call at 800-347-5151. We've got 7 lines open. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. I probably don't fit in the demographic of those watching The View, but it is sometimes hard to miss the controversy surrounding that show. Joy Behar, one of the hosts of The View, weighed in on the faith of Vice President Mike Pence. Behar's comments come after claims by Omarosa, the reality TV star turned White House advisor turned reality TV star again, expressed fear that not only does Pence pray to Jesus, he claims that Jesus talks back. On that, Behar said, quote, "It's one thing to talk to Jesus, it's another thing when Jesus talks to you," unquote, adding that for Christians like Pence, to hear voices in your head may be a sign of mental illness. She then joked, "Can Pence talk to Mary Magdalene without his wife in the room?" Behar's comments are not merely silly. Her comments are evidence of a hateful religious bigotry that has no place in our society. Essentially, Behar has labeled Vice President Pence as unfit for office, not only because he may have a mental illness, but because his mental illness stems from his religious beliefs. This is the exact type of religious bigotry that the drafters of the U.S. Constitution rejected when they rejected any religious test for office in Article 6. No one should be disqualified for office on the basis of their religious beliefs. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
Students and teachers are being told that prayer, Bibles, and religion are illegal in public school, but that's not true. Learn the facts. Read your free Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org right now. Don't let anyone steal your freedom with bad information. Get your Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now. Eric Metaxas.
I would urge anybody who listens to Point of View to understand that unless you are willing to pay something, you can think of it as your tithe, as far as I'm concerned. Pay something, because this is ministry. Point of View it's important, it's entertaining, it's vibrant. I hope that folks who listen already know that, and I'm just here to remind them that they should think about supporting it. But I think this is an important ministry. Kerby Anderson is doing the Lord's work, and I would encourage you to step up to the plate. They need your help.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Eric Metaxas has been coming into the studio back before he'd written all those famous books, so we've known him for quite some time. Of course, he's been an individual that has not only gone on to write books, but also does a radio talk show himself. We are privileged to have in studio with us Nick Pitts, who is the vice president at Dallas Baptist University, looking at global engagement, and we'll get more into some of those issues in just a minute. And, of course, we also have Brad Fisk in studio, and we have a match on the table, which we really need to start whittling off.
We do. I need to
bit.
clarify something that we've been a little confusing about. So there's a $12,000 match challenge given by a friend of the ministry. We don't get to put that $12,000 into our total until it's matched. So this is money at risk. And so what we're asking you to do is to really prayerfully say, I've been really enjoying the program. It's been on for a few months here in the Dallas area. And, I really should step up and be a part of the Truth Team. So let's go ahead and invite you to call and help us carve out some of that $12,000, because as every dollar you give, no matter if it's a single gift or a monthly gift, and monthly gifts, Kerby, we actually count the entire year.
Yes.
So if you give $1 a day, it's actually $360, which becomes $720. If you give a $500 gift, it becomes $1,000. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. So the question is, how much of this $12,000 would you be comfortable leaving on the table and us not receiving?
Well, again, we have got a number of comments from some of you about Facebook, and we'll probably get into that in just a few minutes. But again, there are people, Nick, saying, I've heard claims that Facebook is sometimes anti-religious or anti-conservative. Others say they don't like it. Again, we can come to different conclusions, but I was surprised that Mark Zuckerberg didn't exactly look like he was ready for primetime America today. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, he wasn't ready, but Facebook is an entity that is very not only ready, but hungry for your information. So to touch on James's question, I think it's important to understand, James, when you might not click on ads, but you need to understand there are various data points that are able to get some of that information that it's targeting for ads. So a primary example of this, and we'll just use James's comment on Facebook, which you can comment on Facebook, facebook.com/pointofviewradio, is by the things that you're commenting on. So this has certain data with it, the Point of View radio talk show, that then they can show that you've interacted with it, and they'll target you with particular ads. Or two, your friends, which is the biggest primary way. You might be a little bit more hesitant towards clicking ads that it's able to give you a data profile for them, but your friends might not be. And if you have enough friends, they're able to see, well, this person probably aligns with some of their friends' proclivities, and they're clumping you together. And that's why they call it big data. There's just a significant amount of data, and the picture that they can paint is just very not only compelling, but it's kind of creepy at the end of the day, how much they actually know on you. One, the stuff that you've maybe voluntarily given to them, but two, what they've culled together just through your various interactions.
I ordered something the other day from Land's End. The next day, there's another ad for Land's End popping up there.
Yep.
And another trick that we had is an individual that had helped Rush Limbaugh was in the studio a while back, and he said, here, I'll prove it to you. Husband and wife sit down and do the same Google search on the same topic, and they came up differently based upon just the differences in what
data points
he might have ordered versus what she might have ordered, what she might have got. And again, I can use this as well to figure out who is most likely to vote for Hillary Clinton, who's most likely to vote for Donald Trump, right?
And what's one of the fascinating things is there is a caution that comes with this, and there's a hesitation because we're wondering how much information do they actually know about me. But one of the social science surveys continue to come back is that individuals are willing to forsake privacy for the sake of convenience.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we are still, the research is overwhelmingly clear. We much prefer convenience. Us knowing when we go to check out somewhere what we actually want or what we might not have figured out that we want to get put into there. And so we're choosing convenience over privacy. which, again, is just increasingly important for us to at least be aware of when we're trying to navigate this issue.
Well, it's the Millennial Roundtable, and again, in this article here, in this particular booklet, Privacy and Surveillance, I talk about that because back in the 1990s, when we used to do privacy programs with Marlon Maddox, Brad, those were really hot issues because that was the first time when the Clinton administration was using some things, and some people were saying, are they able to monitor what we say on the internet? Are they able to monitor what we say on radio, or what they monitor what we might say on a phone call? And those were really hot. Now they're not, because millennials are going, I don't care. You think of all the embarrassing things I've said about myself on Facebook. You've seen the embarrassing videos I've posted on YouTube. So it's become, because of the millennial generation, people less concerned about privacy until all of a sudden they realize how much you really do know about an individual.
Yeah, you know what's fascinating too, and this might be more from a Christian perspective than anything, it's trying to figure out what is the level of shame that we have today, right?
That's an interesting question.
There used to be a day that I wouldn't want everyone to know my material, but we seem so quickly as an American populace to be willing to forget. And not necessarily forgive, because I think we always hold stuff over individuals' heads for a later date. But I mean, we see this in our elected officials. We see this in a multitude of industries, individuals whose indiscretions have come public, but yet there is no penalty to be paid. Whereas 10 years ago, the penalty would have been very severe.
That's right. Just before we take a break, let's talk about, again, some of the thank you gifts. So we're going to put that on the screen for those of you that watch the program as well. And it's also available if you go to the website, pointofview.net, or for as little as $1 a day. Of course, we have that Bible stick that we make available to you. And then you'll see on the screen here that the Anniversary Club also includes these booklets, some of which I've been holding up here. And then at the Century Club level, you not only receive the Bible stick and the booklets, but the very significant Amazon Echo Dot, and again, just some great resources. So I have that on the screen in case you've not seen that. And of course, if you go to the website, pointofview.net, and hit that button that says Join Now, you can see those as well. So those are some resources that we want to put in your hands. They're thank you gifts. I know you don't give to get, but we certainly want to say thank you for your support.
And actually, that's exactly the point I was going to make, is the gifts are nice, but think about the impact your gift is having in the future. In a way, you've heard of the phrase, pay it forward. That's exactly what you're doing here. You can't give for yesterday. That's gone. Can't really give for today. It's today's today. But you can give for tomorrow and all the tomorrows coming up. And I would make a special appeal to grandparents and parents. You have kids. You have grandkids. What kind of a world are they going to have someday? Is the government going to know everything about them? Everything about them? I don't know. I mean, those are big issues, and this could go in a lot of different directions. But we need to be a voice that gives a biblical worldview to every single thing that is out there, every single topic. So here's the phone number to be an investor in the future. Think of it that way. 800-347-5151. That's toll-free 800-347-5151. And as we go out to the end of the segment here, man, let's just light the phones up like a Christmas tree, okay? Thank you.
800-347-5151. We come back, we'll get into some other issues. Of course, we have posted a lot of articles today. Nick's picked out things like parents living with kids or kids with parents, texting and driving and safety and so many other issues. But this is a perfect time to call. 800-347-5151. We need 5 callers. We need to hear from you. 1-800-347-5151.
Every dollar doubled.
Lori Taylor heard Kerby talk about sexually graphic books in schools. She thought it couldn't possibly be as bad as he said until she looked for herself.
I could not read the first sentence on here without getting a fine from the FCC.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Lori went to her school to ask if her 12-year-old daughter had seen any of the worst books.
They said, we can't do that. And I said, excuse me? And they said, that violates her privacy. And I said, you don't have any privacy. She's 12. And they said, that breaks the law. And I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no, and if you persist, we will call the authorities.
At that moment, Lori withdrew, but like General MacArthur, she returned and won major battles affecting children in her community and beyond. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories that we've fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. The future is now. When you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
I just want to thank you so much for all the wonderful programming you have. You're just absolutely fantastic.
I recently started listening to Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
Thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Point of View, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective, and receive very current, up-to-date information about what is really going on, week to week in our culture, which is changing so rapidly, and yet it's morally sliding backwards.
Yeah, I'm just, first of all, I thank you guys. Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining us. It is our Millennial Roundtable, but it's also in the midweek of Truth Team Week, and so we have a lot to talk about today. We have Brad with us, as we always have, Brad Fisk, as well as Nick Pitts, and so we just got lots to talk about here. And before we get into some of the relational issues and some of the questions that people might have about our Truth Team, I thought, Nick, I've got to talk about the fact that just a few hours ago we heard that the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, is not going to run for re-election.
What a time to be alive. And so some of the rumors that have been circulating around for the past 3 or 4 months have finally come true, where Paul Ryan told his colleagues earlier this morning that he is stepping down from leadership, and also going to be stepping down from leadership, but retiring from office. He won't be stepping down immediately. He'll just be retiring from office. Sorry about that clarification. And he's going to be retiring from office, not going to be running for re-election, which, again, opens it up to some opportunities, as we're going to be able to see. There's a number of theories as to why he might be stepping down at this time. One, is it because the impending blue wave that potentially could be coming in 2018? Two, could it be that he actually just did what he really wanted to do, which was pass tax reform? Three, it's what he stated, he's got a wife, he's got kids. This man is a fundraising machine that is on the road constantly and really doesn't allow him to be able to spend a significant amount of time with his family. And so there's a number of working theories as to why he might be resigning. But what we do know is that he is resigning, and that there will be a race for who is going to assume the leadership of the Republican Conference in the 2018 116th Congress.
And again, you talked about the idea of leadership and running again, because that was one of the things that was addressed in his press conference, and that is, well, why don't you step down from leadership? He said, well, I'm going to do the same thing that Harry Reid did, and that is, I will continue being the leader, Speaker of the House, until January, but I'm not going to run for re-election. And also, I'm not going to do it the way everybody else does. They run for re-election, and then they announce that they're leaving, because he really is a man who believes in honesty, which, you know, is hard to find sometimes when you look around Capitol Hill.
You know, there was a fascinating take by Ben Domenech out of the Federalist, and I think he really did put it well. And so you had Paul Ryan, which is just a thoughtful individual, very compassionate, is a strong Catholic, has a strong civility streak inside of him. And then you've got President Donald Trump, which is just a little bit more brash, some might be able to say. And increasingly, what we saw is that when the voters had to choose between whether they wanted more Paul Ryans or whether they wanted more Donald Trumps, they've chose the latter instead of the former. And some would argue that this is just a continuation of President Trump really assuming significant and full leadership of the Republican Conference.
Over the next couple hours, we'll talk about what that might mean for the midterm elections. Also, of course, yesterday, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg spent nearly 5 hours testifying before the joint session of the Senate Commerce and Senate Judiciary Committees. Today, testifying before the House Energy and Commerce Committees. And I love what Senator Bill Nelson from Florida said. If Facebook and other online companies will not or cannot fix these privacy issues, then we will. Let's hope not, because I don't think it's going to be good when government gets involved.
Yeah, apparently Santa Claus isn't the only one that's watching you when you're sleeping. So you've got Facebook very much is just keenly aware of everything that you like and love and really do, just some of the extenuating circumstances that allows you and makes you you. and it's built out a pretty significant profile of who you are in order that they might be able to sell you to other individuals and entities. And I think it's going to be increasingly important for Mark Zuckerberg to answer the inevitable question of whether Facebook wants to be a media company that needs more regulations as well as responsibilities, or are they going to continue to function as a neutral technological company, which right now they're a technological company, but they're by far not neutral, is what we've seen.
That's for sure. And so a little bit later, maybe in the next segment, we'll get into some of that, because we'll hear from some of the questions that Democrats like Bill Nelson and even Dick Durbin ask, as also some questions that Republicans like, say, Ted Cruz and Ben Sasse ask. But we need to remind everybody, Brad, that we actually have our Truth Team Week, and let's again just talk about some of the opportunities that exist for individuals to join with us financially.
Well, I'll do that. A couple of times a year, we come to you with an idea that you may not think about very much. We are listener-supported radio. Listener, that's you. Supported, that's you giving us a call with your very best gift. We cannot do Point of View without you. We simply can't. We would go away if all of you went away and the money wasn't there to pay the bills. And we are so efficient with what you give, so we're not afraid to come in times like right now and ask you to make your very best pledge. You don't have to have the money right now. It's a 2 to 3 minute phone call or a 2 to 3 minute visit to the website, and you can make your pledge. I'll give you that phone number right now briefly here, 1-800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151. Also online, pointofview.net. Now, here, pay attention. Just listen for a second. Tune in. We have a $12,000 match challenge, dollar for dollar. Every dollar you give by monthly or by single gift will be doubled up to $12,000. We are so excited for friends of the ministry that made that happen. So again, the phone number to call, 800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
You know, I can't go to Washington. I can't do those things. So the only way that I can help is the way that God has provided for me, and to give some of that back to you guys. So, like you said, partnering with Point of View, because, you know, you can't do it alone. Thank you very much for what you guys do. Believe me, it's a needed thing, and I just hope everybody certainly would get on the bandwagon with you.
I can't afford not to support you. Point of View gives me a voice, and I just appreciate you. And I've been here listening for years, so I thank you, and I do. Again, I said I can't afford not to support you, because I want you to keep going.
I'm 25 years old, and I started listening to Point of View about 4 years ago, and it has changed the way that I think and the way that I view the world around me.
My husband and I are your supporters. We just really appreciate the show and the people you bring on.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Brad Fisk, what did you take
from
some of those
this was
comments?
awesome. Okay, changed the way I think. Okay,
True.
I mean, we're
True.
really wanting you to think for yourself. We're about truth, but we're also about not making that decision for you, but bringing you facts and letting you decide. Another one, you give me a voice. I love that, because we talk about the voice of Point of View. Well, this voice, ladies and gentlemen, needs your help. Imagine for a minute that you're paying it forward. Think about the concept of your $1-a-day pledge, which is, by the way, we're going to talk about thank you gifts in a minute, but your $1-a-day pledge will have a significant impact that you will not know this side of heaven, but someday you'll know how your gift made a difference in someone's life. And understanding the issues, but most of all, understanding them in a biblical context. That is so important and one of our distinctives.
Well, again, we certainly do encourage you to join with us right now. We're going to go to a break, and this is a good time for you to make a phone call, 800-347-5151. We have, I think it's 7 individuals waiting right now by the phones to hear from you. It doesn't take long. You won't miss any of the content we're going to have with Nick Pitts and some of our other guests. So take the time right now to call us, 800-347-5151. You can also visit us on the website, pointofview.net.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
Former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens stirred up a discussion about the Second Amendment when he published an op-ed in the New York Times that called for the repeal of the Second Amendment. Now, most of the reaction centered on the fact that it would be nearly impossible. The amendment process set forth in the Constitution requires a two-thirds vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then it must be ratified by three-fourths of the state legislatures. That's not going to happen. What was missing from much of the reaction was a critique of the former justice's legal and historical analysis. Amy Swearer provides a needed response. For example, the former justice argued that the Second Amendment was written solely because the framers feared a standing army. According to him, the amendment was about the militia and did not protect an individual right. Samuel Adams declared the Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. The former justice also argued that the idea of an individual right is a new idea, essentially invented by the NRA. That would be news to the Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story, who wrote in 1833 that the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has been justly considered as a palladium of the liberties of the Republic. John Paul Stevens also wrote that the Second Amendment did not put limits on government to enact gun control legislation. However, William Rawle, writing in The View of the Constitution of the United States, said that no clause in the Constitution could by any rule of construction be conceived to give Congress a power to disarm the people. If we're going to have a debate about the Second Amendment, it is critical that we get the legal history correct. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio, and we air Point of View on AFR, American Family Radio. Folks, Kerby Anderson and the team there deserve your financial support during this time. They don't ask a lot, but when they do ask, they need your financial support to make the ministry whole, to keep promoting the gospel and the truth about what's going on in our country. We consider them kindred spirits and partner in ministry at Point of View with us here at American Family Radio. So if you would, write them a check, give them a donation with your credit card, whatever you can do to help them keep the cause of Christ before the public on their radio program, Point of View.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Back once again, it is Truth Team Week, and we certainly do need to hear from you, and there's a number of ways you can do so. Obviously, you can call the pledge line, 800-347-5151. You can go to the website as well, pointofview.net. And as we get talking about this idea of Facebook, I've already noticed some of you leaving some comments on our Facebook Live that is available as well. So you just go to facebook.com/Point of View Radio Talk Show, and you will be able to not only watch the program, but leave some comments. And Nick and I spend some time reading those and occasionally mentioning them on the air. So lots of things to cover. I want to get into this whole issue of Mark Zuckerberg, but just before we do so, Brad, let's talk about, for anybody that maybe is new or is not aware of the fact that when they support this ministry, we actually have some thank you gifts for them as well.
We do. I like to call them welcome gifts because you're joining a club. We call it the Truth Team 360. And for a gift of $1 a day, think about that. That's not very much. I mean, coffee's a lot more than $1 a day these days, depending where you go. For that amount or more, we have a Bible stick from Faith Comes by Hearing. You cannot buy this in stores. It is not a retail product. It is a little MP3 player, fits in the palm of your hand, about the size of a pack of gum, has headphones, the battery, everything's there. It's preloaded with the New Testament, word for word, the ESV version, dramatized, music, sound effects. In the next break, we'll actually play a sample for you. But right now, what we really would encourage every single person listening, if you haven't joined the Truth Team, come in at that $1 a day level. 1-800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151. We have 6 lines open right now for you. No waiting, and you can join the Truth Team. $1 a day or more. Oh, by the way, it won't be $360 that you give. It's going to be $720 because we have a $12,000 match on the table, dollar for dollar. That means your gift of $360 for the year will become $720 to our bottom line. And we don't get any of that match money until it's been matched by you. It all stays out of our total. So, guys, I don't want to leave any of that money on the table at all. Give us a call. Won't you? 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
So you're telling me I can be a part of a team and you're not going to reject me? Not that it's saying, like, when I was younger, I got rejected by any teams, but I lacked particular talent and I was as fast as a 56K modem. But nevertheless, that's beside the point. I can be a part of a team?
Yes.
Oh,
you can. You can be part of a team. So give me one reason besides team. Okay, I'm talking to you, Nick. Okay. Give our listeners one reason why Point of View has so much value that they should be financially supporting.
So I think primary reason why Point of View has so much value is the fact that it's going to pursue after faithfulness and not forsake excellence. At the end of the day,
say that again.
You want to pursue after faithfulness and not forsake excellence. At the end of the day,
I like that.
What Point of View does so well is they're carefully considering the issues and graciously responding to the issues in such a way that with a voice that you can trust, but also thinking well about these particular issues, but not just leaving it in ethereal, the thought world, but really what are the practical steps that you can take in order to be able to make sense of the news in this fake news era. What Point of View does, and I am completely biased. I know I'm completely biased.
That's okay.
But at the end of the day, you're looking for you're looking for a group that you can trust, and for a Christian, you're looking and trying to figure out a way to how do I make the Word, which is a lamp to my feet and a guide to my path, how do I make sense of that as I try to navigate through these crazy waters of 2018? Well, Point of View is that entity.
Isn't that great? I mean, I feel so much smarter when I'm around your kids.
Yes. That phone number, by the way, 800-347-5151. Let's get every line going right now. 800-347-5151. You can also give online, pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Click join now. In 3 minutes, you'll be done.
Let's go to Mark Zuckerberg for just a minute. I mentioned, again, some of the testimony. One of those came from Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois. Some of our listeners are there. And he asked Mark Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night? And when I first heard that, I thought, what? And then I realized where he's going. Oh, and he said, no. And then Dick Durbin said, well, if you messaged anyone this week, would you share with us the names of the people you messaged? And he said, I'd probably not choose to do that here publicly. And that's the point. It's the issue of privacy. Now, again, if we want to make things public, that's fine. And I make a distinction, Nick, between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy because I don't want somebody to know something. Privacy is just like, you don't need to know every aspect of what my doctor just discovered the other day. You don't need to know every conversation I had. You don't need to know every place I've been. And that's, I think, the concern that people have about the issue of privacy in Facebook.
Yeah, so I think we're living and moving in a world where it's increasingly prevalent for us to fight for our rights, and we're trying to figure out what is our duty and responsibility right now. And I think with Facebook has been illuminated through these hearings right now. What we're continuing to see is what is the responsibility of Facebook when it comes to our information? How can they still stay in business, since at the end of the day, it's just very much a free company. It's a free thing to be able to join. And so what's the responsibility when we're volunteering so much of our information to them? And so we need to know, what are the responsibilities? What are the ways that they're going to be guided with being entrusted with our information? But then the onus also falls back on us. How are we responsible for how we engage Facebook in a way that's glorifying to God, but also good for humanity? And to just be very blunt and honest, that many of us are voluntarily putting this information in there. I alluded to a study that was out earlier last year that indicated, in the previous hour, that we are willing to forsake privacy for the sake of convenience. Well, are we willing to be inconvenienced by having to do a couple of other clicks to be able to see some of the products that we so love and so love being inundated with for the sake of our privacy? And increasingly, we're not willing to forsake convenience for privacy. We want that convenience above all else. And we just need to be more responsible as to what we're putting out there, what we're clicking on, et cetera, because we're living before the face of God, and we're going to be responsible for everything that we do, even on Facebook.
Do everything above reproach.
Exactly.
Oh, what a biblical concept right there, right? One more before we take a break, and that is, Ted Cruz asked a question: does Facebook consider to be a neutral public forum? And representatives of your company have said that, obviously, Mark Zuckerberg. Or are you a First Amendment speaker expressing your views? So which is it? Are you a First Amendment speaker or a neutral public forum? I get the sense that they kind of jump back and forth on however it feels that it's most convenient for them. What do you think?
Yeah. So I think what was one of the more illuminating things is that Facebook recognized that that Silicon Valley typically tends to lean left. And I think we would all say, amen.
Yes,
we know,
figured that out.
We know that they lean left. And so recognizing that, but Zuckerberg continued to admit that they want to try to be a platform. Well, right now that platform has foundational issues because it tends to lean left right now. And I think, and again, it's fine if you want to do that. If you want to, you're not the government. There's no such thing as free speech for Facebook is a privately held, or I guess a publicly held company. They're able to do that. But if they're going to do that, then they're going to be a media company and not a technology company.
Right.
And media company has certain responsibilities and more and stringent regulations. And if that's the case, then they need to be classified properly.
And again, if you want to hear this kind of conversation every single day, that's what Point of View is all about.
Yes.
And that's why we ask you to consider what you might do, even as we go to a break right now, to support this ministry. The number 800-347-5151.
I failed to mention there's a deadline on here. We got to get this cleared up during the program. So there's an urgency for you to give right now that I haven't introduced to you yet. But boy, I'm telling you, pray on obey. See what God would have you do, because every dollar you give is matched. We have a $12,000 dollar for dollar match. And that means every dollar you give, whether a single or a monthly gift, will be doubled. But we got to get it done because that money goes off the table. It's not our money, not until it's matched. 800-347-5151. 7 people are open on the phones right now to take your call. 800-347-5151. Do you love Point of View? Has it made a difference in your life? Would you like to make a difference in someone else's life for the future? Give us a call.
You need to call right now, because when we come back, we're going to talk about whether texting while you're driving is a good idea. I think we know the answer to that one. What about parents living with kids or kids with parents, and all that whole issue of trade and what happened with China? We got all sorts of things to talk about with Nick Pitts. So this is why you need to call now so you won't miss any of it. 1-800-347-5151. Also, you can go to the website, pointofview.net. We need, 5 callers?
5 callers, every
response.
dollar double. Don't forget that right now.
Okay, we'll be back right after this.
Does Point of View make any difference? Dr. Eric Walsh would say it does. Dr. Walsh was fired as district health director for the state of Georgia, not because of anything he did or failed to do on the job, but because of sermons he preached in his local church. What does that have to do with Point of View? Jeremy Dice of First Liberty represented Dr. Walsh, and the state of Georgia ended up paying a large settlement for their religious discrimination. And Jeremy Dice became an attorney specializing in defending religious liberty, greatly because of what he learned listening to Point of View radio as a child. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories we've fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. Now is the time to press toward the goal. The future is now when you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team.
Point of View will continue after this. You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Continue our conversation today, and certainly we want to encourage you to give us a call with your pledge, 800-347-5151. Brad Fisk in studio with me, Nick Pitts. It is our Millennial Roundtable. We're going to get into some other topics in just a minute, but Brad, how are we doing in terms of some of the response?
Oh, a little few thank yous. Thanks to Joseph with your gift. We appreciate that. Richard, Fairbanks, Alaska, checking in with $125. And here's Shannon with a gift from Charleston, South Carolina.
Just a couple of
those? Just a few of those. We've got more coming, but in the meantime, it's your turn.
The clock is ticking, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're up against a deadline for this match challenge. We have a $12,000 match. It's been whittled down a little bit, but not much. Okay, so we really need your help, especially those of you who might have the capacity to do $1,000. To do $5,000. We had, it really is important to have a gift of any size count, and a match challenge allows us to do that. Your $5 becomes 10, your 50 becomes 100, your 100 becomes 200, your 500 becomes 1,000. That's the way it works, Kerby. So we're asking you to call with your very best gift at 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. 5151.
Let me just, before we get into some more of the conversation we're having about Mark Zuckerberg, and we'll talk about trade and parents living with kids and texting while driving and all of the rest, we have been talking about this Bible stick, and we've never done this before, so I appreciate Andrew taking the time to pull off just a little of the audio, because when we talk about this Bible stick, we're talking about the audio drama of the New Testament. Right. 40 different voices, music, sound effects. Let's, for just a minute, hear what you can actually hear on John 8:28.
Now, before you roll it, just remember, this is not sold in stores. This is only available here. That's a huge thing. So let's go ahead and hear the audio.
They did not understand that he had been speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said to them,
"When you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as the Father taught me. And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him."
As he was saying these things, many believed in him. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him,
"If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free."
This is a word-for-word Bible. ESV version, the English Standard Version, which is the best-selling Bible today. It is of any other Bible. So we're giving you the cream of the cream here, okay? So again, give us a call. $1 a day or more, Kerby, and this Bible stick is our thank you gift, our welcome gift to you for becoming a part of the Truth Team. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Oh, by the way, your $1 a day becomes $2 a day because of a $12,000 match challenge on the table right now.
I might also mention one of the other levels is what we call the Anniversary Club for $45 a month. And why do we do that? Well, we've been in business, if you will. We've been broadcasting since Marlon Maddox started in 1972. So it's been 45 years, almost 46 years. And these booklets, each one of them comes out once a month. Sharia law, making your vote count, privacy and surveillance, one we've been talking about, Second Amendment, and many others. So there are various giving levels. You can obviously find out about that by going to the website, pointofview.net, or you can talk to some of our people sitting by their phones right now. It looks like 7 of them are waiting for a phone call, so let's get some phones ringing.
Let's do that.
And then we'll get back into some of the conversation as well. Nick Pitts with us. And Nick, just for another minute or two, I thought we'd talk about Mark Zuckerberg. And Ted Cruz asked some other questions about, how many individuals here have maybe voted for a Republican? How many voted for a Democrat? Were you aware that a ad page had been taken down about Planned Parenthood? Why was Palmer Luckey fired? This kept just coming, and I just, when I listened to Mark Zuckerberg's non-answers to that, and then when another senator, also a Republican, Ben Sasse, asked him to define hate and hate speech and what would be actually censored on Facebook, I didn't get the sense that Mark Zuckerberg was very prepared, and he's a pretty bright individual.
Yeah, I think, again, I think success is not defined by making the news positively, because I think that's almost impossible when it comes to kind of one of those panel committee hearings. Really, the name of the game in success is found when you don't make the news, when there is nothing that happens. And so what I guess Zuckerberg or Mark was kind of going for was a sense of not wanting to make the news. But I think some of the things that he was willing that we can kind of celebrate is the fact that, one, he's decided that they're going to take a level of responsibility when it comes to apologizing for what they did that was wrong, which was giving away data that was outside of the user agreement that individuals had signed. And then, two, what we continue to see is that it seems as though we're making a way towards, one, forcing Facebook to change some of the regulations, but also, two, raising the question as to what is the responsibility for the government and what is the responsibility for communities to be able to moving forward with Facebook. And a shocking twist that would shock no one, Facebook is not going anywhere. But we've got an election that's looming, and that there will still be entities and organizations that are trying to buy ad space. And a part of buying that ad space is trying to figure out, how can I highly target my ads that would be advantageous for our campaigns, which, again, is going to be increasingly important to answer some of these regulatory questions.
Well, again, he will be testifying again, and so we'll probably get into a little bit more of this. This will be kind of the theme of the week, just one of the many things we talk about. But let's just mention the fact that this is our Millennial Roundtable, and the millennial generation has also been called the boomerang generation. And one of the articles that you posted on your daily briefing, and one of the articles we've posted on the Point of View website, is something really striking. The share of American young adults living with their parents is the highest in 75 years. It's the boomerang generation. We send them out. Brad, maybe you've seen that. I've certainly seen it with my family. And they just come right back again. And that is something that is really unprecedented. You have to go back 75 years to see a time in which so many kids were living with their parents.
Yeah, so again, this is the first time in history. Not only do we see the largest number and largest percentage, but we also see something for comparative sake. There are more millennials, there are more young people that are living with their families than are living with a spouse right now, which is the first time in recorded history. So according to a new Pew Research study, 33% of 25 to 29-year-olds are living with their parents or their grandparents in 2016. That's almost 3 times as many as in 1970. But what's fascinating, though, is that you have to figure out, well, is this all millennials that are moving back in with their parents, or are parents starting to live with millennials?
Millennials.
I highlighted this because I thought this was a fascinating study. Increasingly, parents are moving in with their children.
Right.
Over 3.6 million parents live with their adult children in 2007. That's up from 2000 by 60%. But what we know about millennials is that there are 2 rationales as to why they are not while they're largely moving back in with their parents. One, millennials have quite a significant amount of debt when it comes to kind of student loans as well as credit cards. And then 2, they just don't hold jobs. There's just this precarious nature inside of them that wants to hop around with jobs. So 59% of millennials are single and they're married. 72% of younger millennials, 18 to 24, have less than $1,000 in their savings account. Average college student is graduating anywhere from $24,000 to $32,000 in debt with student loans. And so those are heavy weights for millennials. And then kind of in those heavy weights, one of the things that I continually hear is that the First National Bank of Mom and Dad has great interest rates. And so that's a financial institution that you want to visit, especially if you're a millennial that's hanging on with so much debt.
Well, again, just one of those unprecedented social statistics that you hear about on a regular basis on Point of View, because we have and are so blessed to have Nick Pitts as well as many other individuals that join us during the Millennial Roundtable. And Brad, I found that that's one of our more popular features, our Millennial Roundtable, which takes place on Wednesday. Perhaps the most popular feature is the one on Friday, which is the Friday weekend edition with Penna Dexter, Kelly Shackelford. Sometimes people like Nick Pitts as well as others. Jeremy Dice will be with us this weekend, and these are just resources that are available to you, articles we post. And if you value that, that's why we really need to hear from you right now, because we are, as you said before, listener supported.
Coming up to the end of the program, we need to get a $12,000 match challenge match. That is money that's not in our totals. you give and you release whatever amount you give equal to the match challenge. So if you go for $1 a day, it becomes $2 a day. You go for $100, it becomes $200. We just want full participation. The money amount, we have suggestions for levels all day long. You know what? Pray and obey and do what God asks you to do. But we believe we are here not by mistake for the last 45 plus years. And we want to be here for another 45 years should the Lord tarry. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. We have 5 lines. 5 lines open right now for you. 5 lines open. 800-347-5151 or online.
1-800-347-5151 or pointofview.net. And again, we need to hear from you. When we come back, we have a lot more to talk about. Well, we've only posted a couple of these articles we've talked about, many more to talk about right after this. 800-347-5151.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. I probably don't fit in the demographic of those watching The View, but it is sometimes hard to miss the controversy surrounding that show. Joy Behar, one of the hosts of The View, weighed in on the faith of Vice President Mike Pence. Behar's comments come after claims by Omarosa, the reality TV star turned White House advisor turned reality TV star again, expressed fear that not only does Pence pray to Jesus, he claims that Jesus talks back. On that, Behar said, quote, "It's one thing to talk to Jesus, it's another thing when Jesus talks to you," unquote, adding that for Christians like Pence, to hear voices in your head may be a sign of mental illness. She then joked, "Can Pence talk to Mary Magdalene without his wife in the room?" Behar's comments are not merely silly. Her comments are evidence of a hateful religious bigotry that has no place in our society. Essentially, Behar has labeled Vice President Pence as unfit for office, not only because he may have a mental illness, but because his mental illness stems from his religious beliefs. This is the exact type of religious bigotry that the drafters of the U.S. Constitution rejected when they rejected any religious test for office in Article 6. No one should be disqualified for office on the basis of their religious beliefs. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
Students and teachers are being told that prayer, Bibles, and religion are illegal in public school, but that's not true. Learn the facts. Read your free Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org right now. Don't let anyone steal your freedom with bad information. Get your Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hi, this is Michael Ferris. I am the President, CEO, and General Counsel of Alliance Defending Freedom, and I've been friends with Point of View Radio for decades. This is such a great radio ministry. I'm personally a partner with Point of View, and I would encourage each of you to be a partner. Point of View gets information in a timely fashion to people who need to know the truth, and Point of View brings you the truth. It brings you a Christian perspective on the news, and it calls you to prayer and action in a timely manner. I'll never forget the day that freedom was preserved in the homeschool arena because of the work of Point of View Radio, as leading the charge on that. And so always been grateful for that and would encourage you to be a part of the Point of View team. God bless you.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Brad Fisk in studio and Nick Pitts. Nick, speak to this issue for just a minute. You've been around us for about a year now, and we're getting to know you pretty well, but we're looking at the millennial generation, the next generation called Gen Z. Where is this going, and why is Point of View so important?
Yeah, so let's just think about some of the issues that are facing us today, just in the past 4 hours. What we found out just within the past 4 hours is that we have our current Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, has decided that he is going to retire at the end of his term in order to spend more time with his family. We found out 3 hours ago that former Speaker John Boehner has decided that he's going to go and he's going to start selling pot as being on a member of the board of directors. Well,
you cannot make this stuff up.
That's news that you've heard, but how am I supposed to think of that as a Christian? There is no other entity, and I'll say it again, there's no other radio entity that's telling you the importance of, in the scriptures, we read how children should honor their parents and parents should train up their children, according to Ephesians 6:2, Exodus 20:12, and then Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way they should go, and they will not depart from it. No other entity, media entity, is tying together the biblical narrative and the Paul Ryan story. No other media entity is tying together the fact that John Boehner, now who was once the leader of the House Conference Committee, who was once the leader, the Speaker of the House, is going to sell marijuana, even though the biblical narrative says that even though it's legal in 29 states medicinally, it's legal recreationally in 10 states, we know in the biblical narrative that we're to honor the authorities and not break the law from Romans 13. We know that we're supposed to stay sober-minded from 1 Peter 5. No other entity is tying the news of the day in with the word, which is relevant even today because it's living and active and sharper than any two-edged sword. No other entity is doing that. And the value of Point of View is that even though the news is going to change, the good news doesn't change. And what Point of View does so well is it carefully considers the news, and then it looks and studies the scriptures well in order that you might see how that they engage one with another. Mm-hmm. They're not oil and water, they're peanut butter and jelly.
So then what should they do? What should people
Eat
do right now?
Eat the peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Okay.
Eat the peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Okay.
Or recognize that peanut butter and jelly, it costs money to make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It costs money to put on Point of View. And so we need your financial support. At the end of the day, we need individuals to help us to be able to make individuals to taste and to see and to know that the Lord is good. There are far more people that are paying attention to the news than are necessarily paying attention to the Word of God. And what we want to do is not ask them to come to us, but we want to go to them with news and information that they're already reading, and we want to show them and provide them with that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But we can't make those sandwiches on our own. We need individuals to help us to buy the supplies necessary to make that delectable goodness. And you know what? We're not getting that chunky peanut butter. We're getting the smooth peanut butter, too.
There you go. Okay, so for peanut butter, I'd like you to give... No. So here's the deal. We have a little over $10,000 remaining in the match, and it goes away at the end of the program. Do what Lorraine did. $1,000 gift just rolled in here, so that starts whittling the thing down. But you know what? We have some $5 and $10 gifts here. They are just as important because everybody doing their part. 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Frankly, we need to fill every single phone line right now. As we go to the break, we need to fill every single line. 1-800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Point of View has been a big tool in helping me work through what I believe and understand why I believe it, and given me the ability to argue for it and to defend it.
I am increasingly dismayed at not only the slanted coverage that mainstream media provides, but the lack of coverage. If I hadn't listened to Point of View, I know people who don't even know there's a difference between embryonic stem cells and adult stem cells. And I wouldn't have known if I had not listened to your show. And I give it to you guys, but I'm going to increase that amount because I think you guys are so important.
I want you to think, what would we do if we didn't have Point of View? Give something to Point of View to make sure we don't lose this wonderful voice. And thanks again for what you do.
To protect the caliber and the truth of your programming, I need to participate and to back your program financially to ensure that the truth stays out there for people to hear, to view, and to be a part of.
I do appreciate Point of View and what you folks are doing. You really are doing a great job to educate and to help Christian folks to do a better job to honor Christ in all that we do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Again, we have an opportunity for you to join with us. We still have a mountain to climb.
We do.
We'd like to get to the top of that mountain, and we only get there with your help.
That match money does not come into our total till it's matched. That's why it's there. And so we don't want to leave any of that original $12,000 on the table. We're right at $10,000 now. We actually have open lines for you to call right now, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. As Nick said a little bit ago, do you guys want Point of View to continue? Would you like to continue to have voices that you're not going to hear anywhere else in Christendom, but right here at Point of View? You can also give online at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net.
I might just mention the next hour we're going to share a few of the stories of people that have been profoundly influenced by this program. Of course, you've already, if you've been listening this week, have heard stories about, for example, Michelle Bachman at the age of 19 listening to this program. We've heard of Kelly Shackelford and deciding to go into advocacy for religious liberty, and we're going to hear a lot more of those as well. And of course, we certainly encourage you to maybe share your story with us. You can go to the Facebook page and share that. And of course, some I even want to share that online. We'll try to do that as well. But we need to actually, before this hour is up, reach our goals, and you are going to help us do that by giving us a call at 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
Think about Nick for a minute. What we're really reaching out for is we're thinking of the future generations, Nick, that are coming up behind you. Point of View will become even more necessary than ever before because I see an erosion of religious liberties that I'm afraid may never stop.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things of what we continue to see is that increasingly my generation, as well as the generation coming up after me, this Generation Z, this thumb generation, whatever you want to call them, are increasingly unaware of history. And what we know from history is that it's a treasure trove of information that has showed us that the role of religion in society is what George Washington would say are pillars in support of society, that religion is that beautiful endeavor that enables individuals to be virtuous and really produces virtue, and virtue is a good ally of limited government. And so think about me, but don't think too much about me, because I've been known to cause nausea and heartburn when you think about me for too long.
Well, we're coming to a break here. So first of all, let me just mention some of the things we've talked about this hour: parents living with their kids or kids living with parents, some of the Facebook materials on the website. And when you call, you're not just supporting the 2-hour radio program, or in some cases 3 hours, depending on whether you listen to it all 3 hours. But more importantly, you're also supporting the videos, the articles, and all sorts of other resources, really helping us to develop the next generation, people like Nick Pitts and other people that we've had on the program here as well. So we need to hear from you. That number is 800-347-5151. And again, about 4 lines still available for you. 800-347-5151.
Let's go.
Every dollar doubled. That's right.
Double.
Back.
Lori Taylor heard Kerby talk about sexually graphic books in schools. She thought it couldn't possibly be as bad as he said until she looked for herself.
I could not read the first sentence on here without getting a fine from the FCC.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Lori went to her school to ask if her 12-year-old daughter had seen any of the worst books.
They said, we can't do that. And I said, excuse me? And they said, that violates her privacy. And I said, she don't have any privacy. She's 12. And they said, that breaks the law. And I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no, and if you persist, we will call the authorities.
At that moment, Lori withdrew, but like General MacArthur, she returned and won major battles affecting children in her community and beyond. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories that we fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. The future is now. When you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
I just want to thank you so much for all the wonderful programming you have. You're just absolutely fantastic.
I recently started listening to Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
Thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Point of View, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective, and receive very current, up-to-date information about what is really going on, week to week in our culture, which is changing so rapidly, and yet it's morally sliding backwards.
Yeah, I'm just, first of all, I thank you guys. Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. Each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging. Apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining us today here on Point of View. It is part of our Truth Team Week, and if you would like to join with us, we certainly do want you to write down the pledge line number, 800-347-5151. You can call it right now. Write it down if you are driving, and don't call right this second, because I was reading a piece by Nick Pitts that says texting drivers are making American roads even worse. So as dangerous as it might be to be talking on your phone, it is amazing to me. Do I have this right that we use our phone 4 minutes per hour of driving?
We are using our phones increasingly more so. And so it's fascinating. Just in the past year, we've jumped up 30 seconds, the amount of time that per hour that we're using our phone.
Yikes.
It was 3.5 minutes last year. And so now it has jumped up to 4 minutes per hour. And what we've continued to see is that some of the peak time is about to be the time that we're making our way into right now, which is the 4 o'clock rush hour movement. And it's if you're trying to think about it from a biblical perspective, it's very clear that we're to be considerate of others. And while you might be trying to be considerate and quick to respond to someone that's you're texting, at the end of the day, you are surrounded by a number of high-speeding cars, or if you're on the 75 tollway, cars that aren't speeding, but are a number of cars, and it's important to be increasingly considerate of them.
Well, again, that's just one more reason why at that point I might want you to write down or just say to your phone on your voice, and call it later. But again, we want to hear from you, and we have had a number of you calling, even while you've been stuck in traffic or while you're on your phone talking to someone else, but you're listening to us on radio, or maybe you're actually listening to us on the radio app of Point of View. Right. But again, that number is 800-347-5151. Of course, you can go to the website pointofview.net. And, of course, we have Nick Pitts in studio with us because it's Millennial Roundtable. In just a minute, we're going to talk with another millennial, which I will formally introduce. But some of us that are not millennials, Brad and I fit into that category.
Oh, we sure do.
We have millennials as children.
We do.
But how are we doing on this match? Because if anybody goes to the website, they'll see a $12,000 matching fund, but we still have a lot more to whittle away.
We do. We actually have right around $9,000 remaining in the original $12,000 match. We're grateful for the progress. But you guys, this expires at the top of this hour. The match is done at the top of this hour, and whatever of that $12,000 is not matched, we don't get. It doesn't go into our total until it is. So I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just encouraging you to give during this very special time, like Trent did from Vernon, Texas. And he says, thanks. True report and true facts. You guys are going to love this one. Diane checked in from Illinois with a $30 monthly gift for a Bible stick. Loves the Millennium Roundtable.
Hey, I like that.
There you go, right there. That's what I love about these, because we get to connect with our listeners in a different way. Here's a friend who checked in from Colorado, and it was a $500 single gift. Now, listen, his $500 now becomes $1,000. It has the impact of $1,000 gift right there. And then we've got somebody who became an anniversary person who with a recurring donation of $45 a month. And we're very excited. So a new update just came from the phone center. We're down to $7,080 of that original $12,000, and the match will be met. So this is the time not is to put your pedal to the metal and give us a call at 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. You can also give at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net, and click on the Join Now button.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
And express my gratitude for the awesome work that you guys have done. I've been listening for about 6 months now, and it's just been something I can hardly miss. Thank you for giving me my daily dose of truth with a biblical worldview. I'd just like to encourage anyone listening that's inspired by Point of View to give what they can. I'm a California millennial and Christian, and I now can say I support Point of View.
I've been listening to Point of View regularly for the past year and a half, and I have to say it's been my favorite radio program.
But I'm going to double what I'm sending to you guys because thanks to you, you're keeping this all up to speed.
I am just so thankful for you, Kerby, and for you continuing in this ministry and for people whom God has lifted up in these last days. I just want to thank you and just ask that God would bless you.
Thank you, Kerby. I really appreciate your program. You cover a lot of issues that a lot of us think about, I'm sure.
I appreciate Point of View. You've been great and wonderful. A lot of information, and I really appreciate all your work you do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Again, we need to hear from you. 800-347-5151. Got a number of people on the phone, but I see at least two other people there that I can see.
There's 5 lines open.
Somebody said 5, but I saw some just pick it up. Now I guess we have another one up to 5 again. So again, we need to hear from you. 800-347-5151. Just a minute, let me mention that we'll be talking with Lauren McAfee, and she is the corporate ambassador for Hobby Lobby. So we'll be talking about that.
That's going
She
to be
was
fun.
the first person ever signed on to actually work on the Museum of the Bible. At that time, she was a collection manager, and she is also getting her doctorate from somebody we all around the table know, Dr. Russell Moore. She's working with him. He's her supervisor. She'll be getting her PhD in ethics and public policy. So we are going to really benefit from having her, and this will actually be the first time she joins the Millennial Roundtable, but she was in studio with us a while back when her father, or I guess her grandfather, was here talking about his book, Giving It All Away, David Green, who was the founder of Hobby Lobby. So she'll be joining us by phone. And Nick has developed all sorts of people to join our Millennial Roundtable. We have Chelsea Uman, and of course we've had Jeremy Dice, and we've had Brent Taylor, and we go down a very long list of individuals that all just gathered together with Nick. And so that's one of the benefits of, again, listening every Wednesday.
Yeah, don't hold it against them that they're friends with me. That's for sure. And so it's probably a sign of negative character. But there's a lot of people that are great and that have kind hearts that are willing to put up with me. And so, including many of you, so very grateful for the gifts that you're making and just listening in and tuning in. You will never know, and I'll never be able to express my gratitude. I think one of the interesting things is to consider is without your gifts that we would not be here. And I don't know if you can imagine a world where Point of View did not exist. And I think one of the interesting things that would happen is not less information. It wouldn't be less quiet with one less voice contributing. It would just be less clarity and less order to the already information that's happening. We're not necessarily regurgitating news. We're trying to help you make sense of the news. We're trying to help you better understand the biblical worldview as it applies to the front page newspapers.
So you're telling me that if we go away tomorrow because we're not funded anymore for whatever reason by our listeners, that the voices will continue. There'll just be a different set of voices with a different set of values. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things when you look in the biblical narrative, there were men of Issachar. There were individuals that were a part of the tribe of Israel that helped make sense of the time, is what it says in 1 Chronicles 12:32. You had individuals that were standing atop the walls with Hezekiah that were able to interpret what the guards were shouting over the walls. Again, we're not giving you relatively new information, but we are helping provide a framework for the existing information that exists.
1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. We have $7,000 remaining of a $12,000 match. Has to be done by the top of the hour or that money goes away. So we're just asking you to call right now. 800-347-5151.
Down to about $5,635, but we still need to hear from you. 800-347-5151. We'll be back with Lauren right after these messages.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
Former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens stirred up a discussion about the Second Amendment when he published an op-ed in the New York Times that called for the repeal of the Second Amendment. Now, most of the reaction centered on the fact that it would be nearly impossible. The amendment process set forth in the Constitution requires a two-thirds vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then it must be ratified by three-fourths of the state legislatures. That's not going to happen. What was missing from much of the reaction was a critique of the former justice's legal and historical analysis. Amy Swearer provides a needed response. For example, the former justice argued that the Second Amendment was written solely because the framers feared a standing army. According to him, the amendment was about the militia and did not protect an individual right. Samuel Adams declared the Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. The former justice also argued that the idea of an individual right is a new idea, essentially invented by the NRA. That would be news to the Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story, who wrote in 1833 that the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has been justly considered as a palladium of the liberties of the Republic. John Paul Stevens also wrote that the Second Amendment did not put limits on government to enact gun control legislation. However, William Rawle, writing in The View of the Constitution of the United States, said that no clause in the Constitution could by any rule of construction be conceived to give Congress a power to disarm the people. If we're going to have a debate about the Second Amendment, it is critical that we get the legal history correct. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hello, this is Pastor Jack Graham commending the ministry of Kerby Anderson and Point of View. Kerby is one of my favorite people personally, and I'm so respectful of his ability to take the issues, speak to them biblically, and communicate in a way that we can all understand. His program, his show, the ministry is vital in our culture in order that we may proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ and teach people God's way of living. I want to encourage you as a listener to support this program financially and prayerfully. And I know Point of View and Kerby Anderson personally would be greatly appreciative. I'm Kerby's pastor, and it is a privilege to know him and to be a part of this life and ministry. We support this ministry wholeheartedly.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Wednesday, of course, is our Millennial Roundtable, and usually Nick Pitts is sitting in this chair, and I'm over on the other side, but because of all the details, I let him have a chance to be kind of the co-host today. But we also want to bring another millennial voice to the conversation in just a minute, Lauren McAfee, and we'll get into that. But we are also in the midst of our Truth Team Week, and that's why Brad Fisk is in studio with us as well. And we have this $12,000 matching fund, and it looks to me like we've whittled away quite a bit of it, but still have more to go.
We're a little over $5,000 to go of the original 12, so don't stop calling. Why don't you join the team, okay, like Cheryl from Mount Hermon did with her gift, the best news show ever. She loves us, okay, a big fan out there. Here's somebody who did an increase of an existing gift. They went up to $80 a month. During this time when we're doubling gifts, that's now $160 a month. See, that gets me excited because we get to count the whole year. Okay, and here's another one who gave a $1,000 gift. That becomes $2,000. So whether you give 20, that becomes 40, or $1 that becomes 2, it's not the amount, Kerby. It is full participation and being a part. Stand with us, won't you? At 1-800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151. You can always give at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Don't give up. Give us a call right now and stand with us for truth with a capital T.
Again, we've talked about a number of issues. Paul Ryan retiring. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg before the Facebook hearings. We talked about the share of American young adults living with their parents is the highest in 75 years. Texting drivers are making American roads even worse. And just the kind of things we talk about so often when we have our Millennial Roundtable. So let me bring another millennial to the conversation as well. Lauren McAfee is a corporate ambassador for Hobby Lobby, author of Only One Life, How a Woman's Every Day Shapes an Eternal Legacy, and an individual that has 2 graduate degrees already, a Master of Arts in Pastoral Counseling, a Master of Arts in Public Theology, working with somebody we've had on the program, Nick, a number of times. Dr. Russell Moore will be her supervisor and getting a PhD in Ethics and Public Policy. I know that she met her husband to be Michael when they were, I think, in grade school, if I remember right. And we want to talk a little bit about also the Museum of the Bible, because I believe she was the first person that was actually hired to help at that time as collection manager. So, Lauren, thank you for joining us today here on Point of View.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I have been to the Museum of the Bible, and some of our listeners have. Most have not. And so I always tell them that they have to go to Washington, D.C., number one, just to see everything in Washington, D.C., but they also have to go to the Museum of the Bible because they will see what it's like when dedicated Christians willing to spend $500 million with all sorts of artifacts and high technology. It is certainly a must-see museum. But tell us a little bit more about why some of our listeners, when they go to Washington, D.C., need to make their way to the Museum of the Bible.
I'd love to. Yeah, Museum of the Bible just opened in November of 2017, so it's been open a number of months now. But it is the newest museum in D.C., and it's the third largest museum in Washington, D.C., and it is one of the most technologically advanced. So it's all about the Bible, and it's a really beautiful there are many exhibits that talk about the history of the Bible, the narrative of the Bible, and the impact of the Bible, as well as various rotating exhibits in a partnership with the Vatican Library and Museum, as well as the Israel Antiquities Authority, who have items on display there in D.C. So it's really an incredible museum that's just beautiful. It's very peaceful, and I love walking through. Every time I go, I grab a coffee. We've got a coffee shop in the lobby and enjoy the exhibits. But this is an important museum because the Bible is the most important book in our country and in the world, not only today, but in history. And it still continues to be the most read and most purchased book of all time. So this is a book that should have a museum that celebrates and honors this book. And the purpose of Museum of the Bible is to just invite all people to engage in the Bible.
Well, I might just mention that when people hear that, they think, well, we're going to see a lot of manuscripts and it's going to be boring. And, you know, those of us that love Bible, those of us that teach at seminary, of course, Nick has been to seminary and he teaches, and we would like it, but no one else would like it. Wrong. You have a ride that actually takes you through, if you will, the Washington, D.C. area, seeing all the scripture verses that are on some of the monuments. You have a lot of hands-on exhibits. You've got video. You've got a place which actually just feels like I just went back in time to the town of Nazareth and on. I mean, just so many things. So whether you are old or young, whether you're really into biblical manuscripts or don't know enough about it, there is something for everybody at that museum, isn't there?
That's right. Yeah, that was one of the goals with the museum, is to really make this ancient book come to life in a new way and invite people into the stories of the Bible and into various components of its impact. So one of my favorite portions of the museum is on the narrative floor. We have a 45-minute timed walkthrough where you're actually walking through different galleries you're living the stories of the Bible. You're hearing the sounds. You're the smells. They're inviting you into these stories that you've probably read on the pages if you've ever read portions of the Bible, and now they're coming to life. And you mentioned Nazareth Village. That's also on the narrative floor, and that's a recreation of first century Nazareth as it would have looked possibly at the time of Jesus. So you're getting to see in real life, 3D, what might a first century home have looked like? What would a synagogue have looked like? So that it really puts color to the stories that you read in the New Testament whenever you read about Jesus' life. And we incorporated technology all throughout, whether you're using a digital docent that's your tour guide throughout the museum, or whether you're doing the fly-through of Washington, D.C., that is like a ride where you feel like you're flying through D.C., all kinds of ways we've incorporated technology to really make this an exciting experience for people of all ages. So, yeah, you're exactly right. It's very much an experience, not just a visit to a museum.
Lauren, this is Nick here. I can't wait to go. I'll be up in D.C. for work in a couple of weeks, and so I'm trying to make some time to be able to go. You're talking about Nazareth and kind of ancient times. I know Nazareth now, and so I'm just excited to experience it without all the knick-knack shops and the kiosks.
Yes, exactly.
We've been through that, haven't we?
But I think one of the fascinating things is you've really anticipated what the research is just continuing to show us is that Americans, there's just a strong heritage of seeing the importance of the biblical narrative in the American history, but what we're continuing to see is there's almost and I don't mean this in a negative sense, even though it is kind of negative, but there's just an ignorance of the biblical narrative and an unwillingness to engage in it even today. There was a study put out by Barna that said 51% of churchgoers don't know the Great Commission. That's churchgoers, 51%. 54% of individuals in Britain think that the Hunger Games is in the Bible. 34% think Harry Potter might be in the Bible. And so and especially, I don't know your experience, I'd love to you to comment on this. It seems as though millennials really are just largely unaware of just the biblical narrative even today.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And actually, to refer to another Barna study, I was recently looking over the study that kind of breaks down by generation the Bible engagement that we're seeing across the board. And by far, millennials are the least Bible engaged. And so, this is the Millennial Roundtable. So when we're considering millennials, I am a millennial. We are the least Bible engaged generation, but also not only are millennials not engaged or have a neutral view of the Bible, millennials have actually developed a hostile view of the Bible. So over 30% of millennials are skeptical of the Bible and actually think that the Bible has been used to manipulate people and do harm.
Let's get back to that after the break. Because I want to get to that. It's an important point, but we're coming to a break, and we need to hear from some of our listeners, don't we?
We do indeed. It's a time to pledge. We still have a lot of match money, thousands of dollars remaining, and you can chip that away with your gifts. It's a dollar-for-dollar match, 1-800-347-5151. Call during the break, won't you? 1-800-347-5151. You will not get a busy signal. 800-347-5151.
David Green's book, Giving It All Away. We need to encourage you to be generous. So again, that number, 800-347-5151. We'll have more right after this.
For years, we've been working for change in the future, voting for candidates who will appoint good justices, fighting to end abortion and protect religious liberty. The opportunity to finally achieve the change we've been working for is now. We've got an apparently solid justice for the Supreme Court, and strong rumors another opening may be imminent, a chance to shift the court from illegitimate judicial activist lawmaking to constitutional faithfulness for decades to come. There is renewed support for freedom of conscience and religion, an administration committed to upholding the law. No, not perfect, sometimes maddening, but arguably better than we've seen in any of our lifetimes. And the future is now. It's time for informed citizens, informed Christian disciples to keep the pressure on, to be faithful members of the Point of View Truth Team. Seize this moment. Make an important move. Call 800-347-5151 or visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
for listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Back for the final half hour today. Nick Pitts, Brad Fisk, and Lauren Green McAfee are with us. And if you would like to join with us, we would certainly appreciate that. You can do that simply by going to 800-347-5151. Also have noticed many of you simply have gone online, and that's easy to do as well. Just go to pointofview.net, click on that button that says Join Now. That's all you need to do. It shows you some of the thank you gifts for those of you that join at $1 a day, $30 a month, or those that join at the Anniversary Club level, $45 a month, or even the Century Club level, $100 a month. Some of you want to give one-time gifts, and no gift is too big, no gift is too small. You don't have to have all the money right now, but we encourage you to pledge, and we have individuals standing by phones right now waiting for your phone call.
I'll give you a very brief update on the match. We started the last hour with a $12,000 match. We're down to $4,030. $4,030, the entire $12,000 will move into our total. And people like Sarah from Stockton, California, a $50 single gift becomes $100. But I have a question that she asks. She depends on Point of View. That's what she said. I depend on Point of View. So my question to you, my friend, do you depend on Point of View? Do you listen and consume our product? Maybe the radio show, maybe the stuff online. If you do, would you help us pay for it? 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151.
Wednesday is our Millennial Roundtable. Of course, we have Nick Pitts with us and Lauren with us as well. And Lauren, you were making a case just before we went to a break that is similar because Tom and Jess Rayner, when they wrote the book about the millennials, pointed out that oftentimes it is that millennials, the millennial generation, really aren't thinking about religion or Christianity. But you were also making the case that not only sometimes they don't think about it, some millennials are outright hostile to a biblical point of view, the biblical point of view we talk about on this radio program.
That's right. Yeah, I was mentioning that 33% of millennials are skeptical and even hostile towards in their views of the Bible, which is much higher than previous generations. And millennials are also the least Bible engaged. So I love the Rayner's work talking about millennials and how they've related to religion. But even if we just look specifically at the Bible and millennials relating to the Bible, it shows that millennials have often not necessarily engaged the text themselves, since we are a very unengaged generation when it comes to the Bible, but we're coming to our own conclusions and deciding that this is a book that we actually have negative feelings about. So I think that most millennials, in their negative views towards the Bible, are coming to that conclusion based off of what they're hearing in news and media, as well as maybe negative experiences that they've seen or had themselves in a church. So I hope that through Museum of the Bible, people are encouraged to give the Bible a chance and actually look into this book yourself and come to your own conclusion, as opposed to assuming the things that may have been said in culture about this book.
You know, you were born into the Green family, and the Green family is so well known for philanthropy. Matter of fact, last time I had your grandfather in studio, we talked about his book, Giving It All Away, and I've used that book in teaching my Sunday school class on a couple of occasions. And do you see maybe some parallel between what you have been doing through, of course, certainly the whole Museum of the Bible, not to mention Hobby Lobby, and what we do here at Point of View, because we are challenging our listeners today to really give to the ministry of Point of View, and in some respects it parallels very much with some of the things you've been involved with these many years.
Yeah, absolutely. So my family has always had a deep love for the Bible and have tried to apply the Bible to our lives, whether that's in business or through a nonprofit. Whatever we do, we want to look to the Bible as our guiding source for life and how we live. And I think that that's a great aspect of how Point of View is a resource for people, as you guys do discuss things going on in culture and in our world today through the lens of a biblical worldview and presenting truth. And that is so helpful and so valuable to our world today where there is so much confusion and disagreement and dissension, and being able to have a source for helpful information and a biblical worldview is absolutely invaluable.
Well, Lauren, Brad here, and, it sounds to me like you would like to encourage our listeners to give us a call right now as we have this $4,000 remaining. So just a word, what one thing could you think of to say to encourage people to give to Point of View?
I would just encourage people to recognize the value of having Point of View available and the way that it shapes the conversation through a biblical lens and biblical worldview, and that is absolutely paramount.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, and again, one of the things we want to do with you in the future is to have you join the roundtable discussion. And Nick, you're the host of the Millennial Roundtable, so I'll let you figure out how we can make all of this take place.
Just warning, Lauren, if you do so, I'm filled with statistics and corny jokes, but more of the latter than the former. And so just be aware. I think humor is somewhat palatable. Makes the conversation a little easier. And I think you bring up a really great point. If I circle back, it's the sense that millennials are largely just have had horrible experiences or just less than desirable experiences with the biblical narrative, with church, et cetera, et cetera. And so it just is almost a sense of they no longer choose to expose themselves towards that, because I think we're living in one kind of this era in which we have confirmation bias, but also a selective exposure. Right. And they've largely just tuned us out to a significant degree from the Christian standpoint. And I think, I don't know from your experience, but I've found that they might tune us out from the logical argument of trying to bring up the biblical narrative, but they're very receptive towards the loving acts and kind deeds that the biblical narrative compels the conscience to do, especially for the Christian.
That's right, yes. And my husband and I are working on writing a book right now, actually, looking at how millennials view the Bible, because we think it's so important. And like you said, the acts of kindness people are very receptive to that. Millennials really admire that. And I think that a lot of times in the negative view towards the Bible, it's based off of, as I mentioned, just what they're hearing on talk shows or Facebook, whatever it is, and not actually looking to the book and what its teachings are in and of itself. And so it's oftentimes the Bible is not what they think it is. The message of loving your neighbor as yourself and caring for others, which we find in the Bible, millennials are very receptive to that message. And so we hope to encourage millennials to take hold of the claim that we are. I know our generation likes to be considered an open-minded generation, that we are very interested in searching for truth and finding information that is accurate and researching things. And so hopefully millennials will be willing to have an open mind when it comes to the Bible as well, and looking at this book and this text for themselves.
Yeah, one can only hope that they're surprised by joy, like somehow.
There you go.
Great
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Lauren, we certainly thank you for joining us today. We look forward to this. Matter of fact, when we first started working with Nick, it wasn't Dr. Nicholas Pitts, but now it's Dr. Pitts.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
And we got Dr. Brent Taylor. I'm after a while going to say everybody's got their PhD but me, so it's been wonderful to have you on the program, and we look forward to the next opportunity for you to join us on the Millennial Roundtable.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
We need to encourage our listeners, since we are coming to the very end. And if we don't get some phone calls, we will not make the match.
That's right. We have a little over $4,000 to go of the $12,000 match. Thank you to those of you who have given. 4 lines are open right now, so you won't have a busy signal, and you can give us a call at 800-347-5151. The invitation's out, Kerby, for you to join the Truth Team. Remember, $1 a day or more, you're on the team. You get the Bible stick as a thank you gift from Faith Comes by Hearing, and you get a thanks from us as well. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151, and you can always give online at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net, and click on the Join Now button.
Brad and Nick, if I put some money there on the table and nobody picked it up there, then,
I'm reaching for the money.
Then it would just stay on the table, and that's kind of where I feel like right now. We've got a few $1,000s on the table, and nobody's picking it up. Nick's looking at it now.
I'm eyeing it. I didn't know if I'm supposed to pick it up or if I'm supposed to say double down.
double down.
You're supposed to say call.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're just having a little fun with that. But if nothing else, it is important that we
Yes,
don't leave
it's
any
very
money
important.
on the table. Whether you like the visual illustration for a few dollars, there's a few dollars, that's all it is. But anyway, or something else, that is why we encourage you to join with us. When we come back, we'll get into a couple of other short comments about what is taking place around our community right now. And we certainly do encourage you to find each one of the 4 articles we've posted, because I've said before, you not only support the radio program, but the videos, the articles online, all sorts of other things that we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks. But we can't do it without you. We're listener supported.
We are indeed. And again, you're paying forward. You're paying for tomorrow for us to be here with a voice that's not heard anywhere else. 1-800-347-5151. Come on, every dollar's doubled right now at 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net. Come on.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. I probably don't fit in the demographic of those watching The View, but it is sometimes hard to miss the controversy surrounding that show. Joy Behar, one of the hosts of The View, weighed in on the faith of Vice President Mike Pence. Behar's comments come after claims by Omarosa, the reality TV star turned White House advisor turned reality TV star again, expressed fear that not only does Pence pray to Jesus, he claims that Jesus talks back. On that, Behar said, quote, "It's one thing to talk to Jesus, it's another thing when Jesus talks to you," unquote, adding that for Christians like Pence, to hear voices in your head may be a sign of mental illness. She then joked, "Can Pence talk to Mary Magdalene without his wife in the room?" Behar's comments are not merely silly. Her comments are evidence of a hateful religious bigotry that has no place in our society. Essentially, Behar has labeled Vice President Pence as unfit for office, not only because he may have a mental illness, but because his mental illness stems from his religious beliefs. This is the exact type of religious bigotry that the drafters of the U.S. Constitution rejected when they rejected any religious test for office in Article 6. No one should be disqualified for office on the basis of their religious beliefs. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
Students and teachers are being told that prayer, Bibles, and religion are illegal in public school, but that's not true. Learn the facts. Read your free Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org right now. Don't let anyone steal your freedom with bad information. Get your Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hi, this is Michael Ferris. I am the President, CEO, and General Counsel of Alliance Defending Freedom, and I've been friends with Point of View Radio for decades. This is such a great radio ministry. I'm personally a partner with Point of View, and I would encourage each of you to be a partner. Point of View gets information in a timely fashion to people who need to know the truth, and Point of View brings you the truth. It brings you a Christian perspective on the news, and it calls you to prayer and action in a timely manner. I'll never forget the day that freedom was preserved in the homeschool arena because of the work of Point of View Radio, leading the charge on that. And so always been grateful for that and would encourage you to be a part of the Point of View team. God bless you.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Once again, we are winding down this day of our Truth Team Week. And, of course, it is Wednesday, which is our Millennial Roundtable. Let me commend to you, first of all, we always post the daily briefing by Nick Pitts. That's where you can find out some more about texting drivers and making American roads even worse. Of course, an article that we talked about earlier, the share of American young people living with their parents is highest in 75 years, and so many other great material that is all available at our website. And, Brad, that's why we encourage people not only to support the radio program, but all that Point of View is all about.
We do, and that's right. We don't ever want to forget that, because there's a lot of information that we can't catch on the radio necessarily, but it's always there on the website. Mm-hmm. And there's archives, there's all kinds of ways to access this information. So as you give to 800-347-5151, you are helping us make a difference in the culture and bringing about the worldview. We have an update on the match. We started with a $12,000 match at the beginning of last hour. We're down to $3,850 to go. We're not there yet, guys, okay? I don't want to leave any of that $3,800 on the table. So, Nick, if I gave you $3,800, but I said you have to walk out of the room to possess it, otherwise I get it back, what would you do?
Oh, well, where's the closest McDonald's, right? I'm kind of hungry right now.
You wouldn't give it back, would you?
No,
not at all. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Also, you can give online at pointofview.net. Go to pointofview.net.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Point of View is a part of my daily life, and I know of no other radio program that helps its listeners to develop, articulate, and then defend a biblical worldview as successfully as yours does. For those reasons, I consider it an honor to be able to support Point of View financially, and I would encourage all of your listeners, both young and old, to prayerfully consider doing the same.
I just turned your program on, and I want to just let you know I was working in an abortion clinic when abortion first became legal, and I thought I was helping women. And the Lord showed me in a very powerful way, as He removed the veil from me, what exactly I'd been involved in. And I am proof of forgiveness. And I want to just let you know how much I appreciate just getting the truth out.
I really appreciate your program. I don't get to listen to it every day because I have to work, but it's a really a blessing to me and to all of us.
You know, my husband and I take so many extra precautions to guard our children, and it is a huge effort on the part of Christian parents to do that. I wanted to thank y'all for everything you do each day to inform Christian families and our community about the things we can do, and just the way you're so informative. I listen to you daily and love you guys and appreciate you so much.
I just appreciate all you guys do. I mean, I learned so much, and it's amazing what you teach that I say to other people, and they look at me like, where did you hear that? So I appreciate you guys. So thank you for all you do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Down to the last few minutes, and as always, we wait seemingly to the end to finish things off. It would be nice to finish one of these off early, but it just isn't happening. So here we're down to the last, $2,100, something
That's
like that, right?
$2,150 remaining in the match. So every dollar you give right now will be doubled. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. 5151, and we have 6 people with open phones, so you'll get straight in. You can also give at pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Why should they give?
And you know, I typically, if our listeners are anything like me, I do my best work when it's at the deadline. I did my best work in school at the deadline. I do my best work now when I feel the pressure mounting. And again, I don't want to miss this moment without us, because for the past 2 plus hours. If you've been listening that long, we need to send you a gift regardless. But I just wanted to say thank you. Like at the end of the day, I'm just exceedingly grateful. We started off at some level. I don't even remember. It's just been such a long stretch. But the generosity that you all have exhibited through this time, and it's just done something inside of me. And so not only do I want to say thank you, but also I just want to say thank you to the Point of View team that's listening right now, as well as to Kerby. Like I am forever grateful for what Point of View has been able to do for me, one, as a listener, and now as a host, an individual that tries to contribute his voice. And that Kerby and I don't always agree, but at least we listen to each other out. And we really, it allows an opportunity. Point of View is a forum whereby individuals can be sharpened, where we recognize there's a source of authority in the Word of God, and we're trying to figure out what does it look like when we put forward the biblical narrative and compare it against the current headlines. How are we supposed to proceed in life? And I think that's just the value of what Point of View brings. It's individuals that are putting together what's the news that's making the day, and then how are we to think about that from a Christian perspective, and not simply just think about it, but be about it as well. And so I am just exceedingly grateful. And so on behalf of Point of View, for those that are given and for those that haven't given, just thank you so much for listening, for supporting, and for following along with us. And I would just ask if you would just be so kind as to contribute to this great work.
The phone number to do that is 800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151. A little under 2,000 to go. We've got 5 lines open. You know what I'd like to do? Let's get 5 of you to the phones, even before we go off the air.
That would be good.
5 people right now. Could you be one of 5?
Maybe you would put us over the top.
That's right. 5 of you right now. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can also give. We check it right away, by the way, the internet. So it's pointofview.net. Click on Join Now. Pointofview.net. Click on the Join Now button right on the homepage.
You know, again, we are talking about the future is now, and that is we are, in a sense, paying it forward. And we haven't had a chance today because of all the different guests coming in and all the other activities to even share some of the stories of people in the past that have been profoundly influenced. You've heard earlier in the week from Kelly Shackelford, Robert Jeffress, Michelle Bachman, Alan West, to mention just a few. Just a minute ago, one of our announcers mentioned the story about Laurie Taylor, but there are many other stories. We'll probably share some of those later in the week. But those individuals are where they are now because of gifts in the past. Your gift today helps the future. And so we really challenge you to give. 800-347-5151.
Okay, we asked for 5 callers. We're now down to 2. We need 2 more to make the 5. So 2 more of you get to the phones, won't you? 800-347-5151. If you get a busy signal, just hang on or call right back because you'll get through. We're turning the calls over quickly. 800-347-5151.
Nick, I want to thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you for letting sit in your chair today, and so it was great to have you here. He says we don't always agree. I'm thinking I can't think of any place where we really disagree, but maybe it's because we're still learning about all these new ideas that we talked about with Jim Dennison, and still trying to think about what a biblical view is on some of that. We're just about out of time. Even though we're going off the air, you can still give us a call. That number is 800-347-5151.
Let's go.
And more importantly, even 24/7, you can go to the website, pointofview.net. One last time, 800-347-5151. Brad, we'll do it again tomorrow.
Every dollar double. We'll see you then.
Laurie Taylor heard Kerby talk about sexually graphic books in schools. She thought it couldn't possibly be as bad as he said until she looked for herself.
I could not read the first sentence on here without getting a fine from the FCC.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Laurie went to her school to ask if her 12-year-old daughter had seen any of the worst books.
They said, we can't do that. And I said, excuse me? And they said, that violates her privacy. And I said, she doesn't have any privacy. She's 12. And they said, that breaks the law. And I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no, and if you persist, we will call the authorities.
At that moment, Laurie withdrew, but like General MacArthur, she returned and won major battles affecting children in her community and beyond. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories that we've fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. The future is now. When you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries.